Welcome to this video lecture. Today we will study about critical component of organizational behavior, that is employee attitude. In any professional environment, the way individuals perceive and respond to their work, their specific roles and the organization as a whole determines the overall health of the workplace. We will explore the three primary types of work-related attitudes and analyze the complex process of how these attitudes are formed. By understanding these concepts, we gain insight into why employees behave the way they do and how organizations can foster a more productive and committed workforce. Before we begin, let us look at our learning objectives for this lesson. First, we will define and differentiate the three major attitudes: job satisfaction, job involvement, and organizational commitment. Second, we will identify what drives these attitudes and how they impact organizational effectiveness. Moving to the second half of the lecture, we will examine the theory that attitudes are learned rather than innate. Finally, we will analyze the six primary sources of attitude formation, ranging from personal experience to institutional factors. This comprehensive overview will provide you with the tools of assess to physiological climate of any organization. Our first major attitude is job satisfaction. We define this as an individual's overall attitude towards their job. It is essentially a summary of how an employee feels about their work life. Does the employee feel positively or negatively about their daily task? The attitude is not just about work itself, but it also includes the work environment, the compensation they receive, their interaction with colleagues, and the career growth opportunities available to them. Think of job satisfaction as on a scale. On one end, you have fulfillment and enthusiasm. An employee who scores high on this scale finds their job meaningful and rewarding. On the other hand, you find frustration and stress. If an employee feels undervalued, their attitude towards work becomes a burden rather than a source of pride. In the study of organizational behavior, we treat attitudes as a window into the employee's mind. An attitude reflects how an individual perceives their environment and subsequently how they choose to respond to it. Why should a manager care about a subordinate's attitude? The answer lies in the direct link between internal feelings and external actions. Attitudes influence everything from daily productivity and personal motivation to long-term retention and the overall effectiveness of the company. When attitudes are positive, the organization thrives. When they are negative, it can lead to stagnation in the organization. What actually creates job satisfaction? It is rarely just one thing. Several key factors work together to shape the attitude. First, there are fair wage and benefits. If the payment match the effort, satisfaction increases. Second, supportive supervision. Employees need to feel that their leaders are there to help, not just to demand. And third is a physical environment matters. Safe and healthy working conditions are fundamental. So beyond the basics, we look at the recognition and rewards. Does the organization say thank you for a job well done? We also consider opportunities for promotion, which give employees a sense of future. And the last one, we cannot ignore about work-life balance and positive relationship with coworkers. When these elements are present, the employee is much more likely to develop a positive attitude toward their job role. Now, let's ask a rhetorical question. What happens to a company when its employees are genuinely satisfied? So, the results are measurable and significant. High job satisfaction leads to higher productivity and efficiency. When people enjoy what they do, they do it better. It also leads to reduced absenteeism and turnover. Satisfied employees show up the work and they stay with the company longer. So furthermore, we see better teamwork and morale. A satisfied person is generally easier to work with, which improves the group dynamic. From a business perspective, this also leads to improved customer service as satisfied employees are more likely to treat clients with care. So lastly, it enhances the mental well-being of the individual, which creating a virtuous cycle of positivity. For example, consider an employee who is recognized for their achievement and given a clear path for growth. They are naturally going to remain committed to their job. Listening from general satisfaction, we arrive at job involvement. While satisfaction is about how much you like your job, involvement is about how much you identify with it. This is the degree to which a person psychologically ties their self-esteem and self-worth to their job performance. For a highly involved employee, work is not just something they do between 9 to 5. It is an integral part of who they are. They actively participate in their roles and take deep personal responsibilities for the outcomes of their job. They don't just perform tasks, they own them. So conversely, an employee with low job involvement may perform their duties mechanically, feeling little to the no emotional connection to the result. What does high job involvement look like in practice? These individuals display a strong sense of responsibilities. They are the ones who stay late to ensure a project is perfect because its success reflects to them personally. They seek active participation in decision making because they want to help shape the direction of their work. They also show a willingness to go beyond assigned duties. If a task needing doing, they do it, even if it isn't to their job description. Their high level of enthusiasm and dedication is driven by a genuine desire for achievement and excellence. Think of a teacher who spends their own time developing new ways to help students learn. That teacher isn't just doing a job, they are demonstrating high job involvement. Their high level of enthusiasm and dedication is driven by a genuine desire for achievement and excellence. Think of a teacher who is just doing for extra work just because of their students are involved in that particular activities, not for his job duties that he has assigned, because his salary is fixed, but he is doing extra work just because of here his internal responsibilities are arises. The benefits of high job involvement are clear. It drives innovation and creativity because employees are thinking about their work even when they don't have to. It leads to a higher quality of work and stronger organizational performance. However, we must consider a potential risk. Can someone be too involved? So, the answer is yes. Excessive job involvement without balance can lead to stress and burnout condition. If an individual's entire self-growth is tied to their job, a professional setback can feel like a personal failure. Organizations must encourage involvement while also promoting personal well-being to ensure long-term sustainability. Our third work-related attitude is organizational commitment. This is the degree to which an employee identifies with the organization itself rather than just the specific job. A committed employee aligns their personal value with the goals and values of the company. They have a strong desire to remain a member of their organization. If job involvement is about my work, organizational commitment is about my company. These attitudes creates a sense of loyalty and belongingness. It is the difference between an employee who is looking for the next best offer and an employee who wants to grow with the company for the next 10 years. Researchers break commitment down into three distinct types. First is affective commitment. This is the best kind. It is an emotional attachment. The employee stays because they want to, they love and the culture and the mission. Second is continuance commitment. This is based on awareness of the cost of living. The employee stays because they need to. Perhaps they have a good pension or there are no other job available. They stay because it would be too expensive or risky to leave. Third is normative commitment. This is a sense of obligation. The employee stay because they feel they ought to, maybe the company gave them a chance when no one else would, or they feel a moral duty to their boss. Understanding these three types of helps manager know why their team stays. What builds this kind of loyalty? So, it starts with organizational culture and values. If an employee believes in what the company stands for, they will commit. Leadership style also plays a huge role. Trustworthy leaders build committed followers. Other factors include job security, career development opportunities, and fair treatment. When commitment is strong, the organization enjoys lower turnover rates and greater loyalty. There are improved teamwork because people know they are in it for the long haul. Consider an employee who receives a job offer from a competitor but chooses to stay because they feel a deep bond with their current team. That is the power of a strong organizational commitment. While we have discussed job satisfaction, involvement, and commitment as separate things, they are actually highly interconnected. Think of them as a wave. Usually, job satisfaction leads to a stronger organizational commitment. If you like your work, you are more likely to stay with the company. Similarly, job involvement enhances both satisfaction and commitment. When you are deeply engaged in your task, you feel more fulfilled and more loyal to the organization. Together, these three attitudes shape the overall level of employee engagement and performance. Let us pause for the recap for this section. We have learned that satisfaction is about how we feel, involvement is about how we identify and our task, and commitment is about our loyalty to the company. When these three are positive, the organization is positioned for success. Now that we understand what these attitudes are, we must ask, where do they come from? Are people born with a positive or negative attitude? So the short answer is no. Attitudes are basically learned. We are not born with specific views on job satisfaction or company loyalty. Instead, we acquire them through a process of learning and social influence. Our attitudes reflect our previous history of reinforcement, what we have been rewarded for or punished for in the past. Moving forward, we will examine the six primary sources that shape our attitudes. The most direct way we form an attitude is through personal experience. We develop feelings about things by coming into direct contact with them. By the time a person starts a job, they already have attitudes about what kind of job, what kind work is. Is this good? What pay is it will be fair, or how boss will be, it should be, act or positive or negative, these kinds of attitudes. Once they are in the job, their daily experiences further refine these attitudes. They form opinions on the salary, the performance reviews, and the managerial capabilities of their leaders based on what they see and feel every day. Previous work history accounts for why two people might look at the same job differently. Their past experiences have taught them different lessons about loyalty and performance. The second source is association. We all are members of various groups, and these groups heavily influenced our attitudes. This includes our geographic region, religious, educational background, races, and sex and age. Essentially, we tend to adapt the attitudes of people we associated with them. The nearer the group is to us, the stronger they can influence us. If you are part of a professional association that values innovation, you are likely to develop a positive attitude towards creative risk. We learn what is acceptable by looking at the groups we belong to. So, we cannot talk about attitudes without talking about the family. This is a primary group we belong to, and it exerts the first and often most lasting influence on our core attitudes. From a young age, we develop patterns of thinking from our parents, brothers, and sisters. Research actually show a very high relationship between the attitudes of parents and their children. Interestingly, this connection is often stronger than the influence of child's friends or even their teachers. The family provides the initial lessons through which we see the world and our future work. As we grow into adulthood, the influence of the family remains, but we begin to rely more on peer groups and society. We look to our friends and colleagues for their approval. How others judge us often determines our self image and how we behave to seek their approval. Society at large, our culture, our language, and our social class also provides the boundaries for our initial attitudes. We are social creatures, and the desire to fit in with our chosen social and religious groups play a vital role in shaping what we believe to the true or importance. A very common way we form attitudes is through the imitation of models. This happens when we observe how another person behaves in a situation. We interpret their behavior as representing a certain attitude. If we respect that person or identify with them, we tend to adopt their way of perceiving and feeling. Think about how children watch their parents. They see who their parents respect and who they treat with dislike. The child they adopt this same evaluation without ever interacting with those people. In the workplace, employees often model their attitudes after a respected leader or a successful mentor. Finally, we have institutional factors. Our society is full of institutions like schools, religious organizations, and military organizations that function as support for our attitudes. Consider a religious ceremony or arti in a temple. The architecture, the way people dress, the ritual of singing and clapping, all of these elements create an atmosphere of the reverence and deity focused orientation. The institution itself teaches you how to feel and behave. Similarly, the structure and feel of a school or a military unit provide a framework for the attitudes of its members. The behavior and clothing of people within these institutions give meaning to the beliefs they hold. Let's recap the second major section of our lecture. We have established that attitudes are learned, not born. They come from our personal experience and association we keep. They are rooted in our family upbringings and influenced by our peer groups. We also learn by imitating models we respect and by being part of institutional structures that reinforce certain beliefs. A rhetorical question for you: if attitudes are learned, does that mean they can be unlearned or changed? So the answer is yes, because attitudes are based on experience and reinforcement. Providing new positive experience and different reinforcement that can help shift negative attitudes into the positive ones over time. To conclude our lecture, we have covered a vast ground today. We analyzed job satisfaction, job involvement, and organizational commitment as the three pillars of work related attitudes. We saw how these three are interconnected and how they drive productivity, moral, and organizational success. We have explored the six sources of attitude formation, understanding that our perspectives are shaped by everything from our childhood family dynamics to the professional models we follow today. For an organization to succeed, it must foster a supportive work environment that recognizes contributions and promotes participation. By doing so, they strengthen these positive attitudes and build a motivated, committed workforce. Understanding the why behind an attitude is the first step in managing the how of organizational performance. Thank you, dear learner.